look at the ruling party, how much young people they have. When I say young, I mean under 35. Our last Minister of Education. No, I need to say it. No, I'm not listening, man. No.
Hi everyone, we're back again with another episode. This one is actually a two-part series where we will be discussing childhood trauma within the schools and how it affects the children. And the second part will be with how it affects the teacher. So to assist us with our discussion today, we have Miss NICOLE Young, who is a guidance counselor, and I would pass the mic on to her to give us an introduction about what she does and what school she works with.
Hi, good evening. Firstly, thank you for having me. So as our host has said, I am NICOLE Young. I am currently the counselor for Belmont East, so I have a political coat that I wear, but I'm also fundamentally a guidance counselor. I've been a guidance counselor with the Ministry of Education for the last 7 years. I've worked at the primary school level and the secondary school level. I'm currently a secondary school guidance counselor at East Mokarapo in the Port of Spain and Environs district. So what we do as guidance counselors, we work on different facets. So there's the academic enhancement side, the social enhancement, and of course the career. We always try to guide students in terms of their career path. But more and more now you would see the social element, as yes, career is important and yes, academics are important, but the social aspect and teaching children interpersonal skills, etc. is more and more important. So that's some of the things we would do. We do it at a group guidance level. So I would go into the classrooms and have group sessions, but I also have individual clients as well.
Okay. NICOLE, well, most people don't know, but I know NICOLE outside of her professional capacities, and I'm very glad that she's here because it's exciting that, we get to discuss something that it doesn't get enough focus, in the sense that we don't often hear, especially not from parents or even from school administrators or teachers, or even generally within the population. We don't really hear about the need for guidance to be provided to students from a young age. You usually hear the emphasis on guidance comes in, at the Form 4, Form 5 level and Form 6 level, when, it comes time for students to make big decisions. But for me, we need to discuss, how important it is for the younger students to have that focus, because we can't really expect 11, 12, 13-year-olds to know exactly what to do. And then apart from that, that's just secondary school. What about the primary school levels? Because we often take for granted that, a lot of people come from stable homes, or even if the home is stable, we take for granted the fact that some people's parents know exactly how to guide their children and how to prepare them for the real world out there. So I'm happy that, we're touching on this topic, because when I was in school, which wasn't too long ago because I'm not that old, we didn't have any guidance counselors either in my primary school nor my secondary school. And Zane and I went to the same secondary school, NICOLE, and you went to our sister school. Convent didn't have no guidance counselors. Convent, literally, they just expected.
We had religious education, darling.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have RI.
We then used to have a session once a week, something with your form teacher or something similar to, I can't remember what they call it, but it used to be in the morning time. I can't remember what they call it, but I guess it was an approach to guidance counseling. I can't remember what they call it.
Yeah, I do not remember that.
No, we used to have a session.
Trying to remember. I remember yes, the religious knowledge, and then there was something with your form teacher. I can't remember,
Yeah.
but yeah, there was something like that, but it definitely was not compared to what we do as guidance
No.
counselors. Nowhere close to that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
I have no memory of that, meaning it more than likely wasn't that remarkable.
No, it was not, but it
Or
was
I
there.
probably wasn't paying attention, but I don't remember that at all. We had that right through, like from
Yes,
Form
from
1?
Form 2. I can't remember what they call it, but we did have a session. It was once a week with your form mistress or master, whomever, with your form
Okay,
teacher.
that is
But for
news to
sure,
me.
religious knowledge and ethics. That was
Okay, yeah,
the
yeah.
thing, which was
I remember those. But even so, like those weren't
no, it wouldn't. Like I
they
feel like
weren't
it
the
would have.
same.
It wouldn't be. It wasn't geared towards capturing children that were suffering from some type of trauma
Troubles.
because it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
yeah, it was like it wasn't targeted, it was just like they come and discuss a topic and yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Nicole, I want to ask something. So I know you touched on like how guidance counselors have to deal with the career guidance, and well the educational aspect. But based on my own interpretation, I assumed that guidance counselors probably from TV because well we didn't have it in any of the schools I went to.
Yeah.
We didn't have the facility available in any of the schools I went to. So how is the service? How are the services offered by a guidance counselor different from what is given in like a ethics class or a RI class?
Well, definitely. We would definitely wouldn't teach religion, first of all,
Right.
because we try to appeal to all different denominations, etc. Of course.
Mhm.
Now, okay. So as I think I would have touched on before, we deliver it in terms of group guidance. So I will go
Mhm.
into a classroom, let's say, even virtually, right? I would go into a classroom and have a session on, let's say, conflict resolution. So the entire group of children will learn conflict resolution skills.
Mhm.
However, if there's a child that you may witness or a teacher might witness is having specific issues, or the
Mhm.
parent might come to you, then your referral is made to the guidance counselor through student support services. And then we tackle them individually at that stage.
Okay.
So there is we have the teacher role some days, and then we have the definite counseling where it's individual, confidential. Confidentiality is a big issue, and I think a lot of time people forget that because they forget that children have rights to privacy as well,
Mhm.
and I take that very seriously. So in fact, in my office, well, when we had real school, face-to-face school, my office,
Mhm.
there's actually a sign that says whatever you say in here stays in here unless you're hurting yourself, somebody's hurting you, or you want to hurt somebody else, right? So obviously there's the caveat, but I ensure that they know it's a safe space. And I think it's very important for children to understand that you won't go back and tell the principal, you won't go back and tell the teacher, and you definitely won't go back and tell their parents unless it's
Right.
absolutely necessary.
Right.
So, yeah, and I know that would not be in ethics or in the religious knowledge. So we try to offer a safe space for our the children.
You
Okay.
spoke about, okay, so you do group sessions or one-on-one, but how has that dynamic changed since there's the online school? Do they still provide a time slot for you to be able to reach out to the children and still do your sessions? And how do you pick up those that need special attention, like one-on-one sessions?
Right. So luckily, I come from a school that understands the importance of guidance. I'm at East Mokrapo. The principal, Mr. Philip, is excellent. He is pro guidance, pro student support services. So he ensures that I do get, well, I now work with the Form 1s, especially because they're transitioning into secondary school.
Yeah.
So they need
Yeah.
specific attention. I also deal with the Form 3s. I'm timetabled with the Form 3s because, Form 3s is when you're about to choose your subjects.
Subjects.
So
Yeah.
it's a very integral part, a critical area that we
Mhm.
need to touch on.
Right.
And then as it goes, some teachers might come to you and you'll see the need, maybe a Form 4, maybe a Form 5. It all depends, but I am
Mhm.
timetabled for the Form 1s and the Form
Okay.
3s. and it goes dependent on the need, right? In terms of the dynamic now, let me tell you all, I cannot wait for us to get back to face-to-face school. Seriously, because I mean, yes, I have the sessions with the students, but you cannot pick up the little nuances, the body language
Yeah.
changes. If a
Yeah.
child, let's say, for example, a child is a victim of physical abuse, you can't see the bruises because it's
Right.
visual.
Right.
We are definitely suffering, not only academically, because obviously a lot of children would have issues with obtaining or acquiring devices, but
Right.
more so, parent supervision. That's the reality. Let me tell you something. I've seen it firsthand. There are students who have laptops or tablets, and they literally choose which subjects they want to attend. Right? So
Must
because
be
their parents
nice.
are working. So there is like an a la carte menu. Okay, I'll have some chicken today, but I don't want the fish. So I will have some chemistry, but I don't want the social studies.
Yeah.
So we have a problem, right? So when I tell you, so I really want us to get back to face soon, because I'm seeing a lot of our students suffering. It's taking its toll on them academically, and also even socialization. Socialization is a
Right.
big part of school. So
Right.
I mean, in school is where you learn social norms. You know, you can't just go taking people's things like that, or certain things what you should not do in a social setting. And a
Yeah.
lot of children are not getting that because a lot of them are home alone. So the only interaction is with their parents. So that's a different dynamic there. So
Yeah.
as I said, I really want to get back to face as soon as possible. But in the interim, we do have virtual classes, and when children are referred to me or they self-refer as well, we set up Zoom sessions and we have individual counseling sessions as well.
You know what I wanted to know as you spoke about the socialization? I wanted to know, like, I know that, well, in recent years, we would have seen a decrease in bullying in schools because, of course, the intervention that the Ministry of Education would have made, the facilities they provided, example, provision of guidance counseling in more schools than would have probably been 10 years ago,
Yeah,
5 years ago.
definitely.
But in terms of like now, is it obviously they're not in school, so it's still hard to say that some children are suffering, bullying. But to me, is there still an element? Because from my part, right, when we were going to school, I think all of us went to school within the same era. The challenges that we face in terms of how we saw peer pressure was totally different than how it appears now. So for me, previously, well, back in our days, peer pressure would have been like, okay, we want to, a big thing. Well, it wasn't that big in our school because, well, we went to our old gate school. So, we really didn't have time for some of them stripping us. But big thing was transport bag. Everybody want to have a transport bag that nobody else has with a design that nobody else has. But when I think of, the things that children would like try to show off against each other with now is expensive things like who have the latest iPhone, who have the latest S20, S20 plus, who have the latest tablet or laptop. So in terms of that, like, is an element of elitism that entered the whole dynamic of, peer pressure. Like how have you seen, like, is it like something that's prevalent, or is something probably just in the back of my mind that I be thinking?
Well, let
Or
me tell you
just on
something.
social media?
Um, okay, before in face-to-face school, when there was the whole school feeding program, since our time as well, I think, but even now, still, children who are hungry, their parents do not have money to feed them, will refuse the government lunches because it makes them feel like, okay, that means I'm poor. So they will literally stay hungry, and I see this all the time. And I have to sit down and tell them, listen, stop it. If you're hungry, and I actually have got on the lunch for them at time and kind of sneak it to them so they come in my office and so they can have the privacy, because it literally is something that bothers them. So that is still there. In terms of now with this whole virtual setting, I actually have heard conversations in my group sessions where they'll be talking about certain games and certain the PlayStation. So even those little things still exist. I mean, it's human nature, everybody wants to compare and always wants to show off and be bigger and better than. So it still exists. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
were talking about bullying as well. I can say that yes, it may not be face to face, but there is something called cyberbullying, and it's rampant. Um, we haven't had any reports of suicide as a result of bullying, cyberbullying in Trinidad yet. However, we know abroad it is something that actually happens. It's a very
Mhm.
serious thing. So, as guidance counselors, I know for myself personally, last term, I would have drilled that in my Form 1s and my Form 3s. Okay, these are the signs of cyberbullying. What can you do to prevent yourself from being bullied? And if you are bullied, what do you do? Um,
Mhm.
Also, how not to be a cyberbully, because sometimes people don't even recognize how severe it
Yeah.
can be because they think it's
Yeah.
just empty words on a computer, but these words are
Right.
piercing. So we
Yeah.
also, tell them about, okay, put yourself in this person's shoes. If you're constantly insulting them online, yes, it may not be in person, it will still have detrimental effects. So cyberbullying is very, very real. But I think that our unit tries very hard to work against that.
Okay. You mentioned something earlier where you were talking about the online sessions, and you were saying it's much different because they can't pick up on body language and changes in behavior. And I was wondering, when there was normal school, right, not the online sessions, how equipped are teachers to pick up on those things? Like, do teachers also notice where their students start acting different, or are there sessions that teachers can attend, or some kind of training that they can attend where they can pick up that, okay, this child is going through something, or this child, their behavior change, and I need to like
Mhm.
refer them to a guidance counselor.
Yeah, definitely. The Ministry of Education works with Student Support Services Division and actually has training for teachers like during the vacation period. But it's not mandatory. So it's really a choice if the teacher wants to do it or not. But some teachers do participate, so some are equipped to pick up on certain behavioral changes, etc.
Okay.
Some,
And in
but
terms,
we would hopefully more are trained for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
right. And in terms of that, Nicole, I know we undergoing generally like a changing of the guards in terms of the teachers, because a lot of the older teachers now, they approaching retirement age. And when I say older, talking about that era of teachers that did things a particular way. And we ushering in this new era of teachers that doing things in some areas completely different. So how our parents or even some of us would have been educated.
Yeah.
So, in terms of that, like, do you experience like resistance from teachers and administration, especially like the older ones? Because for me, I've found, especially with like new ideas, a lot of the older folks, they kind of resistant to change, and they also reluctant to assist help, and that's in general. So in terms of you being able to do your job, have you ever like experienced that resistance at all, and has it like been like a hindrance to you being able to do your job properly?
Well, okay, I can't say that I have dealt with it. However, I had colleagues who would have complained about maybe principals who weren't really understanding about this whole mental health issue and the importance of mental health. Yeah, there
Right.
have been, you're correct, older. I mean, I don't want to say that all older persons are like that at all, because as I would have said, my principal is a little bit older, but he is so supportive of guidance and social work within the school system because he understands the need. He's a very
Mhm.
intelligent man. I really enjoy working with him. So he understands the importance of that psychological aspect, and also from a
Mhm.
social work point of view, he understands that. But yes, you are right. There have been principals and even teachers themselves who resist working with the guidance counselor, because to them they came here to teach academics.
Right.
So that whole
Right.
social soft skills part is not that's not their concern. But
Right.
the reality is, if the child is not mentally fit, as in not in a good place mentally, the learning you could
They
be,
can't leave.
it's not,
Yes.
it's not ideal learning going to be taking
Yeah.
place. So I think that's why my principal, he understands that, so he pushes that. So I'm blessed to have him.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic to hear. Because from me, I don't know why, the ministry, and I don't really want to blame the ministry because, we have the denominational schools that more or less run by their boards. But the ministry at the end of the day covers, education. But I'm trying to understand like why they would have taken so long to like bring guidance in schools on stream at in such a big way, in the sense that it's available at the primary school level, at the secondary school level. So there's a wide cross section of students that are receiving guidance right now, because even for us, um we went to what's termed prestige schools, but I know a lot of girls and guys that we went to school with that, right now they in totally different career paths. Some of them looking to switch career paths 10 and 12 years after graduating secondary school, because what they were ushered into, um, they realize I don't like this at all.
I
And
can
this
tell you
is,
this.
yeah,
I can tell you this one thing. As you talk about the so-called prestige schools, what would have noticed is that a lot of people think that they have a safety net because usually a lot of them may come from middle class homes, or the perception.
mhm,
But a lot of these young women and young men, they engage in very disturbing behaviors like self-harm. It's very
mhm,
prevalent among the so-called prestige schools, even drug abuse. So don't let, people need to understand it's not about your academic level. Everybody has issues the same way.
yeah,
So I think
Yeah.
the guidance unit came about officially in, I don't want to lie, I can't remember the time, but I think it's about 2004. So since 2004, there has been an official guidance unit within student support services. Yeah.
okay.
Um, yeah, so that would have been what? How many years that is? Of course, do the math seminar,
I'm
Saka.
afraid
Right
because
now,
I went secondary school in 2003.
right?
So,
So that's been a while, right? Exactly. That's a while. So, but more and more the ministry has recognized the importance. I think honestly, I wish there were more. But of course, we all have their different limitations. I know that in Huddersfield Primary, for instance, you don't have one school, one guidance counselor per school. So when I was
mhm.
a guidance counselor at the primary school level, I juggled 3 or 4 schools.
Okay.
Yeah. But in secondary, you are attached to the school. So I deal specifically with one school. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, but we do work with the social workers. So it's, we kind of juggle the work in that regard.
Okay. 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 Cool, 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 cool. Zane, do you have any more questions? Because I have a few.
So, well, firstly, I just like to say I remember what the session. It was called Life Skills. You don't remember Life Skills? We had Life Skills Amorous, and I just like to
I
reiterate
probably
what you
was
said
talking.
about, because people tend to think exactly what you said, that as at a prestige school, because they come from a certain background, academic level, you tend to realize, moving from primary school through secondary school, is that everybody come from a home where they have similar problems, whether it's self-esteem issues, whether you have issues with your parents at home. And what I've seen is that students of prestige schools tend to deal with it in a quiet way. So just
Hmm.
as you said, self-harm, drugs, some of them have a totally different secret lives that none of their peers in
Hmm.
school are aware of. Whilst in the other secondary schools, you will see more aggressive behavior. So they will be bullies, they will get into fights, they will not turn up to school. Like, it's more obvious. So that's why I think people tend to think that, these things don't happen in prestige schools, but it happens. It's just that the way that they deal with it is different. And it might be the environment does not, doesn't help you to foster, like, we couldn't fight in convent, though, like that could not have happened.
Right?
The environment was not there for you to be able to be act out in a certain way. But the point is that everybody has issues. Everybody would have these issues growing up.
That's an exact reason. That's perfect. That's a perfect explanation of it. And I guess it's social norms and expectations. You're correct.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fighting St. Joseph Convent for the Spain, and you all went St. Joseph, St. Joseph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cannot fight in convent, right? That will be that unheard of, right? So, but in other schools, it's more acceptable in terms it happens and you deal with it, and then
Yeah.
another fight happens again. If you have a fight in the prestige school, that might be once a year and it will be epic.
It'll be everywhere, front
Yeah.
page,
We
Correct.
still
news.
talk about the fights we had in our school, to be honest.
It wasn't on the cup.
I remember fights in school. In my day, there was one fight I remember because there was one fight. So you actually remember that one fight. But in the school I am attached to, when there was regular school, fights were very commonplace, and the principal would always be like, Miss Young, fight on aisle 4. It was like so common. So common. That's why it's so important to teach them conflict resolution and all of these different things. That's why it's so important to really have the guidance counselors in school to try to be proactive rather than reactive,
Yeah. And I think it's also important for them to know, because I still think to this day, I don't think convent has guidance counselors. And
No.
and I mean, prestige schools, we need guidance counselors as well. So it's something for them to look at and send counselors into all the schools, understanding that everybody has that need.
Well,
Yeah,
I know I could definitely say that there's a guidance counselor attached to St. Joseph Convent Port of Spain, because I know the Port of Spain counselors. But I believe there was a guidance counselor at St. Joseph. I don't know if there's one still, but I believe, yes.
Okay.
So I know they're moving towards that. I mean, and these schools are, yes, denominational, but they are government assisted, so they would get the those resources as well.
Yeah. One thing too that I find very important. Yes, there's guidance needed in the prestige schools for like how to deal with social issues, but in terms of the career guidance as well. Because for me, what I find tend to happen, like I was having a discussion sometime with somebody, and I was saying, I know endless lawyers, I know endless doctors, I know endless pharmacists, I know a good few engineers, because those were the careers that we were
Those were the
given to
blocks
choose
that we had to
from.
choose.
Yeah.
But I can't say I know many masons. Well, I mean, I went to a Walgate school, but still,
Yeah.
these professions, and these are the people you need to know. I don't know any plumbers personally. I don't know any tilemen. I don't know any masons. I don't know any people that do electrical. And these are the careers, these skilled areas that people probably would have blossomed in if they would have been given the opportunity in school to, one, explore the field, and two, for somebody to guide them, to show them, how to go about pursuing this particular field. So for me, that is where the prestige schools miss the mark a lot, because even for the all boys or the mixed prestige schools, yes, some of them have like the more technical subjects available. But in terms of providing that level of oversight and guidance to the students, I feel as though they're sorely lacking in that regard. Because I mean, I would like an electrician friend. I would like to be able to say, oh, I went to school with this person. He's a plumber. I'm going to call him, for this particular job. Or if I have to refer somebody. But I mean, how much lawyers are going to refer? How much doctors?
Yeah.
You understand? So for me, that is one of my serious grouses. Like, and I mean, yes, I like the career path that I chose for myself. But suppose I didn't.
Yeah.
What would have been my predicament now? I probably would have been miserable, trying to find myself. And I feel that's where a lot of people are, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Like in my conversations, a lot of them, they're not happy, even though, their career, it's going good. They're still employed in spite of the pandemic and all of this. But they're scrambling to really find the restless, because, I mean, they were pushed into this direction from 17, 18 years old, and not really like told what it is about, what to expect, nothing like
don't
that.
really understand their options, the real
Yeah.
options. Yeah, I mean, I know that guidance counselors every year, they generally have like career fairs in the schools where, okay, just this year, for instance, I had my first virtual career fair where I invited 16 different professionals. So there was a wide range. Yes, we had lawyers. Yes, we had a doctor, but we also had an agriculturist. Because, hey, farming makes money, okay?
Yep,
Right?
yep, it
And we
does.
have to eat.
Right? Exactly. So I think that it's even if the school does not have a guidance counselor, but which I find that will be strange in this time because most schools do have somebody attached to them. I think it's important that we do expose our students to different career paths. Definitely, you're right about the prestige schools, once like so-called prestige schools again. From young, you get they and even look at this the streaming. When
Yeah.
you have to choose a subject, you're in like in my day it was business, it was natural sciences, and if you're in NAXA, you're going to be a doctor. That's what you want to do. If you go into humanities or something, you want to be a lawyer. If you go into business, you're going to be a manager of RBC. You know what I mean? So there
Yeah,
are certain pathways that they push you, and you kind of already know what is expected of you. But some people are a little bit more bold because of their parents. They then kind of go out into different fields, which I appreciate. But you're right, the schools definitely need to show that there are other options other than the standard lawyer, engineer, doctor.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that is something that we need to dismantle as a society because people tend to think that those are the only
Yes.
Successful.
or successful professions. So they tend to streamline you. And I always talk about this. I remember in Form 6, I did physics, chemistry, math, and English literature. And for CXC, I had a clash. Literature and physics was at the same time. And the amount of times the CXC board called me, well, they call the office, and the office called me to answer the phone. And these people were confused, like they're trying to understand how I could be doing science and doing literature. And I'm like, I like literature, but I also like science. And
Right.
like, it's not my fault, so they have it clashing. And they're like, oh, they never heard of this for the first time. And listen to me, I had to sit 6 hours of exam straight with like a 15 or 20-minute break in a room by myself because obviously physics and English will be going on at the same time and they didn't want any, I don't know, think I would cheat or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it was just me and the exam, and that was really stressful on me. But just to think that they never consider that somebody who is a physics student will also be a literature student. So we need to kind of pull away from thinking that the only successful career paths are like sciences, law, medicine. Like you could be a successful artist, you could be a successful painter, you could be a successful, I don't know, carpenter. Like these are the things that hold up society. Also.
Yep.
And make money,
For sure.
Make money.
For
Once
sure.
you're good,
Because
you make money. So yeah.
people have a very skewed perception about some of these professions because I could tell you for a fact I know plenty scrunting lawyers.
Oh yeah. I feel like
Plenty
I need a cup with tea. Yep. I'm telling you. Yep.
You
Correct.
understand?
Exactly.
It's not all it's cracked up to be. Sorry to say. But I just being honest.
That's true.
And I mean, that in itself, I think is like a deeper problem we have in society where we tend to just force the views of society onto from children to teenagers rather than allow them to, expand and to, look at various avenues. Because I mean, even if you try something and it doesn't work out, you have the advantage of being able to pick up yourself and try something else. And that's easier to do. For me, that's easier to do from a young age. So if it is at 18, I think that I want to be a musician and I try, pursuing music. And then 5 years later at 23, right? yeah, 23, I realized, okay, I no longer want to be a musician. And I just abandoned that. I still have youth on in my favor that, I could pursue something totally different, even if it means studying, even if it means, like literally having to start from scratch. So for
I
me,
think
I really I don't know what it is. It could probably be like one of the symptoms of post-colonialism, maybe.
correct. But I think I actually was thinking that I was like, we always have this. We want to be at a certain level, especially as a young, poor Black person. You
Mhm.
want to kind of come out of the mold, and a lot of time people think, okay, coming out of the mold means that you're successful, and their definition of success is the traditional lawyer, doctor, yada 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 yada. I think though, as you were talking about a young person, um, being able to try different things. That's where your parents come in, because the parents have to offer a safety net. I could tell you an example for me. Now, we met in law, remember, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, but it's something that I was interested in doing. But I already had a degree in psychology, but which was really my passion. But I always said, I wanted to try it. So the fact that I was even able to say, listen, I'm going back to school full time, and my father was like, okay, you're home, you have a place to stay, and I'm going to kick you
Yeah.
out. That offered a lot of support, and that was,
Mhm.
I was able to then kind of explore in that way. Let me see what this law thing is about, even though I didn't end up loving it. But the point is, I got the chance to, and that could have worked. You do law, and then you might then want to do the arts. And if you have that safety net, it's important for
Yeah.
parents to, give that support. But a lot of times, parents just are concerned about make that money, child. You need to, you know what I mean. So as if the parents give that safety net. So it's important. People don't even understand. I think a lot of people think, okay, you have a child, you raise them, you give them food, and that's where it is. A lot of
Mm.
parents don't understand that raising a
Emotional
child
support.
is beyond just giving them a plate, a shelter, and a food. It's really about that social, not really social, more like giving them a safety
Emotional.
net and being able to support them, to allow them to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you look at how people discipline people in this country as well, children, I actually remember once seeing a mother, her child was about 4 years old, and the child, something literally fell from the child's hand. I mean, that happens with adults, right? I think it was a cup or something like that fell on the ground, and the mother hit the child. So the child was learning from very young, don't make mistakes. So you imagine the
Right.
psyche growing up. So you reach older, you're not even allowed to make mistakes and actually learn from your mistakes because your parents right there. That's what you
Mhm.
learn.
Yeah.
So yeah, safety nets are important.
Okay, as you mentioned that, right? I was thinking too, like, okay, so students really do face like trauma from having to deal with like peer pressure
Right.
and victimization from other students. But what about those who have to deal with that kind of pressure and, different things in the home that they get from their parents? Like, how are you able to like assist with that, especially now that they don't have a safe space as in physical school to run to? I mean, you're home 24/7 more or less.
Yeah, and as a result, we've actually seen more cases of domestic violence, more cases of self harm. So a lot of the children are coping or trying to cope very maladaptive ways, but they're trying to cope with being around this place all the time. Can you imagine? As you correctly said, before children would have it hard at home, but at least they have a place to come to school away from it.
Mhm.
But now they're there 24/7, right?
Right.
So, and that's really where communication is key, and getting the message out that yes, your parents are obviously the first place you can turn to if something is happening to you. But if you think that your parent is somebody you can't turn to, you have to drill it in the children's heads. Talk to your principal, reach out to your guidance counselor, speak to a religious leader, speak to a
Mm.
friend. We have to encourage them to speak out, because a lot of them don't even know that they can turn to persons and they hold it inside, and then the
Yeah.
maladaptive behaviors happen, right?
Right.
So I think, and this goes beyond guidance counselors. This goes to every human being who cares about children. It's important that we ensure that they know that they can reach out, and it's okay to reach out, because a lot of times, even like the way we socialize our young men, they don't think it's okay to talk about their problems. So we as a society have to start teaching our children it's okay to talk. It's okay to reach out. Talking about your problems is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's a sign of courage. So we have to put that narrative, But in terms of if there is an issue at home and a child does reach out, of course, we deal with it case by case. Sometimes it might be a social work issue. Okay, for example, let me make it clear. Social work and guidance, we work together, but we are separate. So, for example, absenteeism, for instance, if your child is just not coming to class, the social worker will deal with that. So we work with career, academics, and the soft skills, yes, but I talk if we have some serious problems like absenteeism or drug abuse, the social workers deal with it. So the guidance counselor usually, because we have more interaction with the children, we would pick up on certain things, and if there are more severe cases like absenteeism or drug abuse or physical violence, it goes to the social worker, and obviously if it's physical violence, to the police station as well.
Right. So Nicole, I don't know if you want to have give any final comments or any advice to persons who might either be trying to get into the field of guidance counseling or have to deal with students in need of guidance that you want to say.
Sure. I mean, if you want to get into the field of guidance counseling, it's a beautiful field. It's a very fulfilling field. You work with children and you actually get to see their progress, which is a wonderful feeling. Of course, you'll have to do psychology at the undergraduate level, and then guidance and counseling, like a diploma in guidance and counseling. They always ask for that. The Ministry of Education always asks for that as well. But more so, you have to have a love of people. Because it's just like doctors. You ever had a doctor who has no bedside manner? Yeah, they know medicine, but they're not people person, and you're wondering, well, why are you in this field?
Yeah, they should be a vet.
Yeah, not even a vet, because animals don't even deserve that. No, but so you really have to love people and actually want to see progress and actually have to have patience. I think what I can tell the entire population is mental health is real. A lot of times people that say, for example, with persons who are depressed, who are suffering from depression, oh God, shake it up now. No, it's not shaking up. It's a real issue. So I just implore people to really take it seriously and do some research and understand that our children are definitely in crisis. I don't want to be dramatic, but as somebody who sees it every single day, especially during this pandemic, mental health issues and children, I don't want to be dramatic, but it has been something that has been very concerning to me. So people really have to understand how important mental health issues actually are. I think that for our children, please feel free to reach out to their guidance counselor. Talk to your principal, your teacher. They may be able to pass you on to your guidance counselor. And you probably would know your guidance counselor information, because my students have my number, and that's okay with me. I know some people may not like that, but and they text me, Miss Young, so and so and so and so. So please feel to reach out. I guess, and most guidance counselor would in this time give that facility, because we understand that our children really are in crisis.
Right.
So please reach out. We are here to listen to you.
Great. Nicole, I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this episode. And I hope that, in the future, we can, have you on again to discuss further this topic or, something else. Because at the end of the day, part of our mission on the podcast is to really talk about things that concern Trinidad and Tobago. So I really am glad that we got to have you today. I really did learn a lot. And guys, be sure to follow us on our social media platforms, like this video, and share this video to everyone. Share it to every student that to every person that, probably have a passion for counseling, or just to any person that might need to benefit from the information, which is everybody. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.